Now on the APEC VIP hotline, cutting-edge training for the serious athlete, apecgo.com. Joining us now from rattleandhumsports.com, Jarrett Huntley, covering the NFL and particularly the Houston Texans. Jarrett, nice to talk to you. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Bryan. How about you?
Doing very well. Thanks for coming on with us. First of all, tell people who don't know a little bit about your website, Rattle and Hum Sports.
Well, Rattle and Hum Sports is it's a regional website. We cover Texas sports. We're real focused on the Big 12 right now, college football, college basketball. We are also, covering the Rangers, the Astros, the Texans, and the Cowboys. And we just try to give the fans around the Texas area some specialized coverage for the teams that they're interested in.
Okay, and you guys are based out of Houston, correct?
We're actually based out of the DFW area.
Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. I stand corrected. You've got a different area code there, so I thought you were based out of DFW.
Well, I guess technically you could say I'm based out of Houston because that's where I grew up. So.
Oh, okay. All right. So, and you are covering the NFL right now, and one of the things that we wanted to talk to you about, because it seems like the sexy pick to win to at least go to the Super Bowl for the AFC are the Houston Texans. What is your opinion of that thought?
Well, I think that there's several reasons for them being a sexy pick, Bryan. They're a complete football team, and I tried to, as a sports journalist, not let bias play into this, but I am admittedly a Texans fan. But even if I were not, they would probably still be my pick to go to the Super Bowl, simply because they have no weaknesses. They are strong on offense. They have arguably the best running game in the NFL. And with apologies to the San Francisco 49ers, probably the best defense in the NFL. And then you throw in a guy like Trendon Holiday all of a sudden with 3 kickoff returns for touchdowns in the 4 preseason games. And, where's the weakness? It's a veteran team with a coach in Gary Kubiak who's been with this team now 7 years. The players know the system. They got a good mix of young guys and older guys. So really the only thing standing in the way is the health of Matt Schaub and Andre Johnson.
Well, and that's the first question I was going to ask you. Those two guys have had a hard time staying on the field together for a full season throughout their careers. What's going to change that this year?
Well, I think that Matt Schaub's going to be fine. I think if you watched him in that 3rd preseason game, he looked as good as ever. He looked completely back to normal. That Liz Frank injury, I think for a quarterback like Schaub, he's not really a mobile quarterback. He's not running around a lot. As long as the offensive line is protecting him, I think he'll be fine. I'm a little more concerned with Andre Johnson because, he had 2 hamstring injuries last year, 1 on each leg, and those are usually pretty chronic type of injuries. And, he's getting older. He's been he's in his double digits now in terms of years in the league. So, but with that being said, I think the Texans are much better prepared now for life without Andre Johnson, with the emergence of young guys like Les Sargent, and you got Keyshawn Martin playing out of the slot. So they can withstand that if they were to lose Andre Johnson.
Yeah, you talked about that, but one of the amazing things about the Houston Texans, and I think one of the reasons that people are so quick to jump on their bandwagon this year, is it seemed like they got hammered by injuries last year and just kept on rocking the whole season long. And they showed so much resiliency and so much ability to deal with the adversity in this thing that they look like if they do stay healthy, you can't beat them.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to that veteran presence in the locker room, Ryan. I think that this group of guys has been together for a while, and if you remember, it wasn't just last year, but the year before that, they were a little bit of a sexy pick. They were kind of a sleeper for the Super Bowl, and I believe that was the year that they went 9-7. But nobody really paid attention to the defense or the lack thereof that we had. And once Wade Phillips got brought in last season, it seemed like the stars were kind of aligning, but the injuries took him down. But with that being said, I think that, I know we're in a passing league. This is a quarterback-driven league now, but it still ultimately comes down to, do you have a defense? And, the New York Giants won the Super Bowl last year. Yes, Eli Manning passed for, 5,000 yards, but that defense is what helped them win that Super Bowl when they went and they decimated the Atlanta Falcons, and then they made Aaron Rodgers look human in the playoffs. And without their defense, the Giants wouldn't be Super Bowl champions last year, and I think that the Texans definitely have that going for them.
And with all due respect, they don't have the toughest division in the world to have to win this year either.
No.
You would agree with that? That's not being insulting to say that.
Absolutely, I would agree. In fact, I think the AFC, if you compare it to the NFC, is very weak. And really, there's only two teams that I see holding a candle to the Texans in the AFC. That would be the Ravens and the Patriots. I know I saw Peter King from Sports Illustrated made a couple of interesting predictions. He has the Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl, and but the last time I checked, Peyton Manning can't line up at safety or defensive tackle or cornerback. So I don't know how that's going to work out because their defense is pretty suspect.
How much are the Texans going to miss Mario Williams and D'Amico Ryans?
I think they will miss D'Amico Ryans slightly more than they'll miss Mario Williams because they've got a trio of edge rushers and Whitney Merciless, the new kid, the first-round draft pick out of Illinois. Then you got Brooks Reed and Connor Barwin. Brooks Reed was actually Peter King's pick for Defensive Player of the Year in the AFC, which is a pretty bold prediction. But Connor Barwin's only going to get better. He's just now coming into his own. And Mario Williams only played 5 games last year. People forget that. They think that that's a big loss for this defense, but this defense was shutting people down without Mario Williams throughout the last 11 games of the season and in the playoffs.
Talk a little bit about the value of Arian Foster to this football team, and a lot of jokes about him being a vegan now and how that's going to derail him. But obviously, the guy's had a tremendous career so far, and what he means to that offense.
Well, Arian Foster is a very special running back, and you hear a lot of talk about the Texans' zone running scheme and how Gary Kubiak historically has always been real good at finding any running back and just plugging them into that system, and they can kind of go. And you've seen a little bit of that with Ben Tate, but if you watch Foster run and then you watch Ben Tate run, there's a marked difference. Arian Foster has vision that is just special, and he's got very deceptive speed. Foster's able to see holes where most running backs are not able to see them, and he can just do things that other backs can't do. And despite the fact that the Texans run, kind of a running back friendly zone scheme, where if you get a guy who's a one cut and go type of runner, he pretty much any type of those backs could succeed in this offense. Foster goes above and beyond, and he gives the Texans something that most teams in the NFL don't have.
Okay, and we know Matt Shaw puts up big numbers and is highly efficient. Is he a big game Super Bowl winning type quarterback?
Well, I believe he can be. And it's unfortunate because he didn't have a chance to prove that he could be that guy last year. I know it had to be tough on Matt sitting and watching the Texans play in the playoffs. And, TJ Yates did about as good of a job as you can do for a 5th-round rookie quarterback. But Matt has just not had that opportunity because, every time that the Texans offense has gotten rolling, it was either the defense letting him down or it was injuries where he wasn't able to play. Really, it's all just prediction from here. I can't say one way or the other whether he is or he isn't because I don't think he's had that opportunity yet, but I definitely think he will this year. The Texans are going to be in some big time games and they're going to be a good team, and they, 5 prime time games. You got Monday Night Football against the Packers, and you've got a Thanksgiving Day game against the Lions. So we'll get a chance to see how Matt performs under the bright lights.
And one last thing, too, you talked about it earlier, but, it's really pretty rare that someone will stick with a coach as long as Houston stuck with Gary Kubiak, and it seems to have been, it's paid off for them. Talk about his growth as a head football coach.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I've always been a big proponent of owners who believe in their coaches and who believe just in the system that's been put in place. And I was very pleased when Bob McNair decided to stick with Gary Kubiak before last season and that coaching staff and give him one more year. I think Bob McNair is one of the best owners in the league. He does a great job of providing the resources that the team needs, and then he keeps his, unlike our neighbors to the north, where the owner
easy
he seems to like to have his hands in the business of just about everything going on. But I think that Bob McNair kind of lets Kubiak, take control of this team and do what he needs to do. And it's continuity. I mean, continuity cannot be underestimated. It's so important, and that's one of the reasons the Texans are Super Bowl favorites, because the players have been with Gary a long time. He's a player's coach. They know the system. They know what to expect from Gary. They know what Gary expects from them. There's no, new systems to learn, and I think that is so valuable, and I think that gives the Texans a real big advantage as opposed to many of the other teams in the AFC.
It always starts at the top, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Hey, Jarrett, thanks very much. Tell us what we can look forward to in the coming days on rattleandhumsports.com.
Well, let's see. I'm going to have a Texans-Dolphins game preview coming up here in just a couple of days, and that'll be out. And we're also going to be doing a podcast. We're rolling those out. We'll be recapping the Cowboys and the Giants game, the big game tonight. Should be a good one in New York, and we'll also be doing a preview of some of the key matchups, some of the bigger games coming up this Sunday.
Outstanding. So once again, it's rattleandhumsports.com, and you can check that out online constantly. Jarrett Huntley, thanks very much for coming on with us. We really appreciate it. We look forward to talking to you down the line.
Absolutely, Bryan. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Jarrett Huntley, rattleandhumsports.com, Bryan Houston Sports Radio Live, 99.3 Talk FM.